Hey there, in this video I take you behind the scenes of the Rustic Songbird podcast where I interview Lorneth Delora Peters about having a success mindset as a musician. She shares some amazing wisdom and some practical tips for how it all starts with your mindset. I hope you enjoy this interview, and if you like this, you'll probably enjoy more of the episodes. So go check out the whole list of previous interviews at rusticsongbird.com/podcast. Also, I want to invite you to my free class for musicians called The 3 Secrets to Planning a Successful Album Release. So if you're looking to release your own music this year, I would love to help you make that happen. To sign up for the free class, go to rusticsongbird.com/register. I'd love to see you there. My guest on the show today is Lorneth Delora Peters. She is a good friend of mine, and we have reconnected to talk to you today about success mindset for musicians. So Lorneth is a musician and also a business coach, and she does amazing things. And so I thought she would be the perfect person to come on the show and to talk about the creative side and the business side of mindset. That's something that I've been studying a lot lately, and I realized that even if you know all the information, you still have to overcome some fears and some beliefs and mindset issues. And so we're going to dive into that today, and I'm so excited to talk to you. So Lorneth, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
It is so good to talk to you, and
Same here.
I can't wait to hear more of your story. So we've connected through music over the years and have known each other for a long time, and I really love your voice and your style, and just you have a bubbly personality, and I feel like if anybody's around you, they're going to smile. You're just one of those people that just make you smile, and so I appreciate that about you, and you just have such a joy around you. So, real quick, let's introduce you. Tell me a little bit about your story, your background, and how you got started in music and what you're doing now.
Yeah, perfect. I have an eclectic background, like I like to tell, I always say about myself. I was born in St. Martin, the Netherlands Antilles. And then around the age of 8, my parents decided to move to the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we lived there until I went off to college, and now I live in Tennessee, Clarksville, Tennessee. I must add that Clarksville, Tennessee, as you know, is the #1 place to live in America this year.
That's what the surveys say.
That's what it's
my hometown.
yes, so love it. So that's kind of my journey from the time I was around 8. I can vividly remember the first time I sang. One of the pastors at church said, "I just feel like you need to sing tonight. You need to lead us in worship." This was at 8 now. I was nervous. Literally, I thought I was going to die. But that was at that moment, I knew I had a calling on my life. This 8-year-old was able to lead the whole congregation, and they followed. And that's a leadership spirit that I never knew I had from the age of 8. And that has followed me on to this point.
Wow. Yeah. So you got started young. I mean, isn't it amazing that pastor was, had the discernment to say, "Hey, I think you have a gift. Like, go ahead," and just giving you the chance. You could have been too shy or said, no, not me. Like, don't make me do it.
Well, I was shy, and my mom was like, "You are going to do it."
Okay, so you got a little bit of a push there.
Oh, yes. And it's weird. So I always get extremely nervous. I'm sharing this with you, with everyone today. I always get really nervous before I sing. That has not gone away. From the time I was 8 to this point, I get really nervous. I always get kind of sick right before I start singing my first song. And from the age of 8 to now, I still get that feeling. But I feel if I lose that particular feeling before I sing, the Holy Spirit can't work as much as he should be working. Because then I start depending on me more instead of on him. And when I have that feeling, I know I have to fully depend on him.
It's like you're out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
But the great thing about that is you do it anyway. If you feel that every time and you still step on stage, that is so courageous.
Yeah.
You're being brave in that. You're not saying, "Oh, look at me, I've got this. I'm confident." You're saying, "I'm confident in the Lord, and I'm just going to step out and be faithful."
Let him do it.
That's amazing. Well, that's an encouragement to anybody that's listening that gets scared before they go out on stage, or if they get nervous every time they sing. I think I get nervous at points where I don't expect. So
Yeah.
like I'll get nervous for like small groups of things, or if I'm introducing a new song, maybe
Mhm.
things that are a little outside my comfort zone. And I just realized that I'm like, okay, I'm nervous, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, and especially when you're not your best or you feel like you're your best that day. Here in
Sure.
Tennessee, we have a lot of allergies. So I feel like my voice is never fully at its full potential.
Hmm.
So I'm always concerned, oh my God, I hope I don't crack at this point in the song. I
Sure.
hope people can't hear the difference in my voice. And honestly, a lot of times they can't. It's
Hmm.
all in our head.
Yes, and that's what we're going to
Yeah.
talk about today, is
Yes.
it's all in your head.
Yes.
And this is something that I've become more aware of, like my thought patterns, what I'm saying to myself, my self-talk, because I think a lot of those things that we tell ourselves from the beginning are like thoughts that we outgrow, but then we're
Mhm.
still thinking them, and it's still kind of changing our the way that we do things. And so tell me a little bit about where you're at in your life right now with business,
Mhm.
with music, just things like that, and then we'll jump into some of this mindset.
Yeah, yeah. So I currently work for the Tennessee Small Business Development Center, where we help businesses get started, businesses grow, and the economic development in the city. And I love that. I get to talk with songwriters, also individuals interested in taking songwriting from, say, a hobby to a business. And
Mm.
that's always fun, because I always tell a lot of the clients I meet with, you have to put on you have to change your mindset. You can't think the way you used to think before. It's like taking off your mommy hat, going to work and coming back and putting it back on. You have to separate the two at times, most of the time. And that's the same way it kind of is when you are going from just having songwriting or singing as a hobby to a business. So that's
Yes.
kind of, that's what I do on a daily basis, work with small businesses.
Oh, that's so exciting. And you
Yeah.
help people to be successful, because that is a big leap. It's
Yeah.
huge to go from a hobby to a business, or even part-time to full-time is a
Yeah.
huge shift for people. And just like the background stuff that nobody sees, like the organization stuff, your
Yeah.
systems, your bookkeeping, your marketing, there's stuff that
Oh.
is like not connected to music at all, that
Hmm.
all of a sudden you wear all the hats, and it's like,
And
what do
yeah,
I
and
do
I,
with all this?
I know. And when we talk about mindset and success, what success is for you is not for me. And a lot of
Yes.
times we get caught up in, oh my God, this person is doing all these things. That's what success looks like for them. What would you consider success for you? So I
I
always bring
love
it
that
back
question.
to, yeah, I always bring it back to myself. All right, this person is doing all these, what, in general, we consider to be great things, but that's not what I consider success for me. As a songwriter or as a singer, when I get to lead praise and worship, success is someone coming up to me and crying and saying, thank you, I needed that today. If it's only one person's life I changed, that's success for me.
Mm. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
looking at it that way. And I actually wrote that down in my notes for today on what I
Wow.
wanted to talk about.
Wow.
I wrote
Yes.
down getting clear on our goals, what is success, and defining that for ourselves.
That's awesome.
And
That's
right
awesome.
on,
Right there.
exactly what
Yes.
you just
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because if we don't know what our goals are or what the outcomes are that we're looking for, then we don't know where to start. And that's
Yeah.
something that holds people back a lot of times. But once we know the end result that we want and the
Mm-hmm.
outcome that we want, then we can work backwards from there
Yeah.
and
Perfect. Yeah.
actually get to it.
Focus
Because
on
if
that.
there's
Yeah.
no end, then what do you do in the middle? You're just kind
Yeah.
of throwing stuff out there without a goal. And so I think that's really important. That's something that's really helped me, even breaking down little things. What are my goals for this project? What are my goals for this part of my life? The
Mm-hmm.
songwriting part of my life, the recording artist part of my life, and breaking it down into like actions and what can I do to get me closer to that goal. So what does
Yeah.
that look like for you?
Um, I try to stick to rituals. I know that sounds crazy, but it has helped me throughout the years. So success for me, as you said, I write it down. I give myself an end date in which I need to get to that point. I also give myself a check-in date, not just, for instance, if I would like to write 4 songs within the next month by February 1st or something like that. I would say, okay, I need to have a check-in date, say by January 25th, to see if I'm getting to that goal, and what things I need to change around in my life to make sure I get to that goal. Because a lot of times we set a goal, but then we forget about the date until we get close to the end date of why we set the goal, and we never get to that goal. So I always have a check-in point where, okay, let me check in to make sure I'm still on track to actually see that goal come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I usually do with goals. Another thing I do, I try to get an accountability partner. Somebody I share my goals with, say, hey, I need you to check in on me. I need us to have a conversation along the way so that I know someone is holding me accountable.
Oh, I
So
love
that's
that.
what I usually do with my goals. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking it and writing it down are two
Yes.
great ways to start putting it out there, whatever your idea is, whatever your goal is. If you say it to someone, you're like speaking it into existence.
Mm-hmm.
And if you write it down, you're more likely to remember it and more likely to commit to it.
Yes.
I've
Yep.
heard that from several people talking about goals, and I agree. An accountability partner helps remind you. And I really like that you said the check-in date,
Mm-hmm.
because we do have an end date. A lot of people say, oh, I want to get this done this year or this month, but then, like you said, you forget about it. And if you check in, then you still have time
Yeah.
to make it
You
happen.
know, yes. Yes.
That is so, so good. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're talking to musicians and songwriters that are wanting to make that leap from hobbyist to a full-time thing, you know, make it a
Mm-hmm.
business, what are some of the biggest struggles that you see people dealing with, especially with mindset, like their thoughts towards making that leap?
A lot of times they think they're not good enough. That's the first place they start. Well, I know I want to do it, but I'm not as talented as this next person. And if I can get a little spiritual for a minute,
Oh
God
yes, of
has
course.
God has never chosen the most talented individuals. He always chooses those who are willing and listen to his
Mm-hmm.
voice and heed the calling. So that's the first thing I tell him. I said, okay, you don't have to be the best at what you do, but do
Right.
everything to the best of your ability. And I promise, I always say, I do my part, the other person does their part, and God gives the increase. That's what I
Yes.
always focus on. You do your part, God will send others to help you, and he will give the increase. And that's what it's all about. I don't focus on being the best. I focus on being the person who says yes to his calling.
I love that. So, so good. And I've
Yeah.
seen that too. I mean, just in talking with other writers, and I've heard so many people with amazing talent, really, that have said, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm good enough. And that's one of those thoughts that plays in our mind when
Mm-hmm.
we're not confident with things, or we're trying something new, or we don't have feedback on like a new song idea. We're like, well, I don't know
Yeah.
if it's good enough. I don't know if it's good. And so that's another measure of success. It's like, who measures what's good enough? And
Yeah.
a lot of times I think that is just a sign of perfectionism,
Mm-hmm.
because we're saying, well, is it perfect? Is it the best that
Yeah.
it can be? Is it the best out of every song that's ever been written? Well, probably not. You know, it's like, we can write plenty of good songs, but that good enough thing, I think,
Yeah.
really holds people
Yeah.
back.
And you
Um,
know, I listen a lot to Behind the Music with Hillsong.
mhm.
And a lot of times the songs that become the top hits, they were not expecting them to be the top hits. They never do. Like we weren't expecting that song to do that well. I mean, we wrote
Right.
it within a day, you know, and they're expecting the songs that they spend months to write to be their top songs. But it's usually the songs that God placed in your heart when you least expect it, when you're driving, when you're sitting at home, when you're sleeping and you have to wake up and write the words down.
Yeah.
Those are the songs that actually will change lives forever and become
I
your popular songs, if we can put it
Yeah.
that way.
I
Mm-hmm.
think it's because it relates to people, because it's
Yeah,
real. And if it does flow like that, where it's like you can't even write it down fast enough with
I
how
know.
the song is coming, um, it just seems like those songs like get downloaded to us from heaven.
Yeah.
It's like God saying, all right,
Yes.
here's a song, and we're just writing it down.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the best ones.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about like your thought processes on like your mindset when you think of success in music. Um, like, what are some of the things that you say to yourself about your music, and how do you like kind of give yourself a pep talk when you need one?
I always say, God, I'm exactly where you want me to be at this time. I'm writing exactly what you want me to write at this time. I'm open to wherever you want me to go next. That's before I sing, before I get on stage for praise and worship or writing songs, before I do anything, I always say, God, I'm right where you want me to be. I know this is what you want me to do, and I will allow you to flow through me. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. I just stick to I always have the mindset of humility. It's not about me. It's not about propping me up and making sure everyone sees me. It's about them seeing God through me. And that keeps me humble. So that's
Yeah.
the mindset I try to keep at all times. I'm
Mm-hmm.
right where God wants me to be. Even right now we're talking. I mean, we've known each other for so long. And
Yeah,
this moment in time, it was planned by God.
I
I
believe it.
mean, we could not have planned it any better. We could not. And that's
He
how it is
works
when
it
we're
out.
writing. Yeah, how when we're writing and when we're singing, we're right where God wants us to be. And when we live with that mindset, it changes everything.
Yeah, I agree. And those thoughts, those things that you repeat to yourself become a habit,
Mm-hmm.
because you've said that, over and over whenever you're going out on a stage or going
Yeah.
to do something. And so I think it's good to train ourselves to say those types of things to ourselves, because it's a choice. We're
Yeah.
choosing what to think and what mindset to go out on a stage with, or even if it's going into a meeting, or making a phone call, just taking a moment to take a deep breath,
Yeah.
especially if it's something you
Mm-hmm.
feel is important,
Yeah.
like an important meeting or important conversation, and just saying, whatever those phrases are that help you kind of get in the right frame of mind. It might be, God, this is not about me. It's all about you,
Yeah.
and you're going to work through this. And even like a short prayer of saying, God, let this be glorifying to you
Yeah.
and move me out of the way.
Yeah.
I feel like the best projects that I've been a part of, God has orchestrated in spite of me. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. He always
it's
does.
clearly not about me. And so that really helps me to have the confidence and humility at the same time,
Yeah.
to go out, because it's confidence in
And
who God made
humility.
me to be,
Yeah.
and that He's the one that's putting this together, and it's not up to me to make anything happen.
Exactly. Another thing I do too, while I heard you talking, it reminded me, I read a devotion. It talks about the topic of that one says, you are chosen. And I have to remind myself, because I mean, especially when we sing praise and worship at church, we have a lot of talented people in churches. And a lot of times I can slip into comparing myself to others and their gifts, which makes God look like he did not know what he was doing when he created me. But I slip into those moments where I'm like, I wish I could hit that high note. I wish I could do something like that. I would, I slip into those moments. But reading that devotion always grounds me and reminds me, you are chosen. You don't have to be the best, like I've mentioned before. But God saw fit to choose you for this season, this moment, to change lives. And that again gives me the confidence, but also keeps me humble.
Wow, so good.
Yeah.
So good. The other day I was singing at an event, and I was
I'm
talking.
sorry, my friend.
Oh, that's okay. I was singing at an event the other day and talking to another musician, and they were saying, "Wow, you did a great job. This was the best I've ever seen you."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Well, thank you." But for me, I was up there, and I know that I hit the wrong notes, and
Yeah.
I messed up and played a different chord, and I forgot the words at one point. And so to me, I was like, "Well, those things happen," but I kind of just kept going, and
Yeah.
nobody else really realized it. They
Mm.
either weren't musicians, or they were just enjoying the song. And so I was thinking, wow, that wasn't the best performance, and I don't have to be the best singer or best guitar player, but the emotion of the song came through,
Yeah.
and the intention of what
Hmm.
the song was written for came through, and that's what connects with people. And so I think if we get scared of like, oh, what if I forget the words, what if I play the wrong chord, what if I don't hit that high note, if that holds us back from even trying, then we're missing out, like they're missing out on the
Yeah.
blessing that they would get from hearing the song. And I really think the song speaks for itself. When people
Mm.
hear it, like they're going to take something from it. And if we just stop in the middle of the song, or if we don't even get on the stage because we don't want to mess up,
Yeah.
then we're making them miss out. on the
Yeah.
blessing. And so I think a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, as far as how we talk to ourselves, how we prepare our
Hmm.
minds, is a huge part of being able to go out there and do it anyway.
And I think going off of what you said about the emotion in the song, I once heard a quote that said, people may never remember what you say, but they always remember how you make them feel.
Yes.
And I always keep that with me because it's true. I can have a conversation with someone for a whole hour, but I remember that feeling I had with them. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the same kind of in songwriting. And when you sing, they may not remember all the words, but they remember that moment, how it made them feel. And it makes a big difference in their lives.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is so good. Man,
Hmm.
I love all of this that we're talking about. It's so important to
Yes.
get in the right mindset,
Yeah.
especially as creative people when we are, making things and we're putting music out into the world and we hope people like it.
Yeah.
And then if you're making this a business too, there's just added pressures to that and a huge learning curve if you're doing it all yourself. And so I think a lot of times we can get fearful or
Hmm.
overwhelmed or stressed out, and that affects what we're doing. And so we have to make that discipline of changing our thoughts,
Yeah.
choosing the positive, choosing to remind ourselves who we are and that we don't have to be like someone else.
Yeah.
We're uniquely ourselves with our own
Hmm.
individual gifts, our own timeline, even, and what is success looks different. What success looks like is different for each
Yeah.
person. And so I think this is so important. And before we wrap up,
Yeah.
what encouragement do you have for writers that are just getting started and maybe they're learning some of these things for the first time and it's a lot, So
Yeah.
what are your tips and what's your advice for someone getting started?
Perfect. That's a great question. I would say, if you can, one of the first things you need to do is get around like-minded individuals, because if you stay around the same people who are not interested in what you're doing, it can affect the outcome of your music and the outcome of your self-esteem. So get around individuals who are like-minded, who are also songwriters, who are interested in going along on the ride with you. Another thing I would say to anyone interested in songwriting is figuring out your style, because everyone has a signature. I mean, you can listen to certain songs on the radio and you know exactly who wrote it. Find out, start perfecting your style of what you want people to hear every time you write. Another thing I would say is just to write, 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 write. Go to sleep, wake up, on your breaks, every chance you get to write or record every single day. And at some point, you'll realize that your writing is so great. And it's because, you know, what did they say? You have to put in like the 10,000 hours to,
Yes.
to, to be considered expert in that area. Put
Mm-hmm.
in your hours as much as you can. And those are tips I would like to give to those who are starting out. And to those who are already in that particular mindset of being songwriters and are growing as songwriters, use some of those same tips. Continue to get around individuals with the same mindset. Continue to work on your craft. And one day, tomorrow, next year, things will work out the way you would like them to, and what you consider to be successful will actually come true. So those are some tips I will give to everyone,
Yes.
beginners and those who are currently a part of that fight of becoming a better songwriter every day.
Yes, we all need that. I agree. Well, let us know how we can connect with you online, how our listeners can find you on your website and social media.
All right. So social media, Instagram, Lorneth Delora Peters. You can find me using my full name. And LinkedIn, what I love to use all the time.
Awesome.
Also my full name, Lorneth Delora Peters. So those are my two main social media platforms currently.
Okay, perfect. Well,
Yeah.
thanks so much for your time today and for being on the
Thank
show.
you.
You're so encouraging, and I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of this. So thank you for sharing today.
Thank you so much for having me, my friend.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this interview of the Rustic Songbird podcast. And again, I want to invite you to register for my free class for musicians called The 3 Secrets to Planning a Successful Album Release. You can sign up and grab your free spot at rusticsongbird.com/register. I'll see you there.